You are now listening to We Are Crayons, the podcast. Extraordinary conversations with Trinidad and Tobago's creative thinkers and makers. We'll delve into their processes, their struggles, and what drives them to execute continually as creative individuals. I'm your host, Donna McNichol. Enjoy. This podcast is a production of A Big Box of Crayons. Please review and rate the show by going to podchaser.com/wearecrayons the podcast. You can help support the show by buying us a coffee or two at buymeacoffee.com/wearecrayons. Mr. Braxton, welcome to the podcast. Sound engineer, producer, businessman in the business for over 20 years, so I'm sure you have some information, some knowledge, some know-how to pass across to our audience. So let's get into it.
I am looking forward to this interview really and truly because at the end of the day, I don't do much of it.
Right.
So to have a little podcast out will be cool, and to do it with Dano is like even better because yes. So yeah, simple. I mean, a simple guy, Daryl Braxton was born in Ari Village, Princeton, from South Trinidad. Last of 4 kids, kind of came up after the others was already gone. So more or less, I kind of grow by myself, so I'm accustomed being by myself, and that way I lived in my head a lot. And that was always a real nice place for me. So I think anybody who's a last child outside there right now probably totally understand what I'm talking about. So yeah, that's about it. Love for music from ever since, from conception. And I don't know, I think probably I sure my moms and my pops was listening to music when this thing happened, because I'm telling you, from since I know me, it's only about music. Anybody who would know me would know what I would kind of, attest to what I do today, because I don't know that was what would have been in my part. Started more or less, as I say, listening to music all my life. Started DJing and doing little stuff in my teenage years, going to secondary school and stuff. Started to wanted to be a DJ and, play around with turntables and that was nice. I did that for years. But the real sweet part about it, even before the DJing came about, was when I started to understand where this thing in my head came from. And because hearing the music in your head and understanding what is going on in your head as a youngster who was not in an environment where people could tell you, well, Daryl is music. Right. Because my moms and them didn't really know what I was. They just thought that this child really liked music. Right. But I didn't know that this child was hearing music too. Right. Like Shadow on this bassman thing. Right. Yeah, but I pumping PD pump used to be in my head. I mean, I used to be hearing things and I didn't know what it was. And like, what is these things? Right. But I remember, secondary school music class. That's where it really, the light went off, the eureka moment. And music teacher was Miss Arta. I think, well, if she's alive, Miss Arta, wherever you are, she played middle C on the piano after she asked everybody their names and everything. I know everybody know that secondary school thing does go. And, coming on to the end of the session, that period, she said, well, all right, well, this is the piano and the scale and so. And today we were going to learn the most simple thing. And she said, we are going to say the middle of the keyboard is middle C. So I'm going to play middle C, and she plays middle C. And I'm like, okay, interesting. And just from hearing that one note did so much things to me. Because I looked at the piano and I was like, okay, if that one note, it has so many keys on that, how much more of those notes there are. And then the music in my head started to make sense immediately. And she saw the potential, and she kind of more or less helped and mold. She really helped and mold. And simple. I mean, she probably do things with me and for me with music class that she probably don't even know, because my interest was just there, and I had somebody who was learned that was actually taking the time off to teach me. Other kids in class there was not a music class. We talk about crochet and semitone and semicolon. It's like, what language is that? Nobody cared. But somehow I cared. Somehow that made sense to me, what a bass clef is or what a treble clef is, and that made sense to me. And I started my journey of understanding music from then. And well, with that and listening and DJing and everything, it just went from one place to the next and to the next. until I really decided, well, no, I want to know how to create music. I want to know how to make music now. Right. So I think my sister was dating a guy. He was a music teacher around that time. And I told him, I said, well, I want to know how to make music. And you are a music teacher. I learned so much in school. I need to learn more. And he was like, very nice. And he more or less took my hand and guided me further, and I got to learn more chords and progressions and stuff. And more every day I learned something. It just mean more music come into my head and more music. And the better you get, it's just great. You just keep flowing. It's like at a point it was like a waterfall because like I couldn't sleep because like now I could play little things on the keyboard. So I don't want to sleep because every time I get up, I want to play something else. I hear this, I play it. And I would be recording things because I had like a 4-track Tascam recorder. So every time I play with my little Casio, I would record it on one track and then record something else. Real caveman days recorded it. Real caveman days thing. But it worked for what it was back then. And then first real workstation that I got was we had a Korg O1WFD keyboard workstation, and that was it there. That is when I started to learn sequencers and how to make music. And that was it. That was when, I realized that, okay, nothing else I want to do in life. I am going to be making music. I am going to not work for nobody. I told my mother this. My mother tell me I to own way, this and that. And
I was just about to ask if that support came from your parents.
What went on with her, it was weird because she tried, but she knows she tried.
Right.
Like she tried to say, well, go back, continue your academia like your sister, this or that and the other. But there's no point in a tie and say, no, in a cubicle was never going to be me. Right? Yeah, that was not going to be me. So my thing was, I know what my future was. And I decided to take the risk. And she tried as a parent, really supposed to do, and show you the other side of the coin. Oh, you need to have a security. You need to have this. You need to have this. And me, all I was thinking is being creative. I do that going to be my security. My security going to be my talent. And probably moms, you ain't seen it yet, but guess what? I know it. Mm-hmm. I go invest in me. I will put in all the time that I'll be putting into work for somebody else. I will put that time in me because I'm young. I'm 17, 18 years old. And if I put in 4 or 5 years of work in me, I think I'll reap better benefit than sit down in a cubicle working for some bank filing data entry things. Some of that just looking like it just was not what I want to do.
But then at that age, at 15, 17, even probably up to 18, did you have a sense of how much work you needed to put in?
Yep.
Okay. And where did you get that knowledge? Was it innate or that's
I think everything was innate, boy, because I from Princess Down. Nobody in Princess Down. This thing was really a dream. This was a dream because if you live in Irie Village, Princess Down, you would realize how remote Irie Village, Princess Down is from where Port of Spain is.
Right.
And Port of Spain is where everything was happening. So when you watch your mother and tell your mother you're going to be a music producer, are you going to produce music to actually sustain your life? And they will watch you like you're going mad. What are you talking about? This is almost like impossible, And I used to do a lot of introspection. I lived in my head a lot. And I used to just be in my head and figuring out what my life would be. And the weirdest thing is that I said I'll live my life in 5-year blocks. I don't know where I got all these little ideas from. Mm-hmm. So for first 5 years, I'll do this. And next 5 years, I'll do that. And I gave myself these 5-year blocks to live out my life. And when I was 19, I was home a day. I said, lie down. I had this abdominal board downstairs. My brother had a few little pieces of, everybody's a little gym gear downstairs.
Right.
So we had this wheel abdominal board thing. So I used to lie down with this abdominal board and think. That used to be my thinking spot. Breeze blowing, chirping, trees in Princess Town, enjoying the life. And I had a neighbor, God rest her soul, she's dead now. She told my mother, she said, Norma, I think something is wrong with your son. So my mother's like, she said, I just see him home just lying down staring into nothing. And my mother told me, and I said, well, I say, she lying. I say, because I was never influenced by go on the block and stand up and do nothing. And I never like that.
Right.
I never like the idea of peer pressure and friend and gang and them thing. Nah, I like me. I think I'm not a follower. People will follow me. I don't follow nobody. I don't care what it is. I tell you right now, I have a problem with Twitter. I am telling you because I don't like to follow people. It's done. You already don't get it. It's a serious thing. I still have a problem with hitting the follow button because I do not follow. It's a weird thing to say, but I always tell myself, that I want to be a leader. And I think being a leader, you don't really learn that.
Right.
You don't really learn that. I think that's just it. That's kind of innate. That's just who I am and what I was. And so by the time I was 19, 20, well, before 19, 18, still in the teens, younger teens. So this was guy that I grew up with, he used to write songs and we would pong my mother center table and make beats and he would write and we would this was our dream. We used to tell ourselves, boy, we'll make it, we'll come out of Princeton and we'll make it. So that was our dream and that was our motivation. And we tried all kind of things, doors closing our faces, but we never stopped. And it went from, I started from late 80s, so that'll be like 87, 88, 86, so then. And by 96, 97, that guy and I had our first local hit record. And that guy was Ken Malan Charles, KMC. And we did a song called Bashment to Carnival that more or less changed our lives. And we bought cars and we did things that we said. It was real funny because we used to be driving past one another on the road and we'd stop and look like, we actually do it. It was like, we actually did it. Right. And it was very nice. It was so gratifying to just do that. And, so more or less, that is a fast track kind of put in a nutshell as to where I started and from where I started as a amateur into nothings and until I got my first record. But to get to that point, there were so many things, so many stories, so many ups and downs, so many trials, so many things to learn, so many people to meet. And those things that happened there was what more or less created me today. Right. And the person, the individual, the musician, everything, those disappointments and so many things that could go wrong and so many few things that would have gone right. And knowing let's if you can share one or two of those things, especially things that went wrong, because I think those are the times that show us who we are. And whether this thing that, as you say, for your music or whether that I want to pursue or this is my dream would really test the metal of that now. Whether that dream is really my dream or just fantasizing about being something. When we started, when I left Princeton in 94, 93, 94, somewhere there. No, Kiss Kitty Caravan would have already started, and I used to listen to Shell Shock doing music and stuff, and I was real impressed by this guy. I find he was amazing. And when I got the opportunity to leave Princeton and pack my bags, and that was it, because my sis, she married and she moved out to the north. And I told her, I said, well, could I come and stay with you? She was like, yeah, come. So that was I get to reach Port of Spain. You know what I mean? I get to come out to the humdrum of Princeton. And when I got up here, the reality check was so dread. It was like, man, this is going to be hard. Because for the one part, it's a boys' club. Everything is a boys' club. Because to get into the business, everybody went to school with everybody. This one knew that one. This one knew this one. Who is this little boy from Princeton? Nobody knew who I am. It was very hard. And a lot of times you tell yourself you're going to get in the door, somebody give you a promise and tell you this will happen for you, and it do happen. And lots of time you go in the night so sad, like so beaten down from a whole day of just trying to hustle this thing and trying to get this music to work and walking from downtown to Marval by Caribbean Sound Basin and trying everything humanly possible. So sometimes to just reach back home in the evening and feel like, okay, nothing happened. And, at that point, sometimes your moms will see and moms will be like, well, why would you, he's a bright fella. Why would you just continue with your education? And then I would think that, all the years that I put in, I would waste it if I go back to school now and try to rekindle this go and work in a bank thing. So, I never looked back. I more or less kept pegging on. And it worked out where same KMC again, we did a record and we needed some place to mix it and master it. And we went to the phone book and we found a place called Engine Room in Marvel. And I met a guy called Robin Foster because they gave us some studio time to come and record. And that was another turning point in my life. Because when I got there and they heard the music that I did on this one keyboard, everybody was like, you do this? I was like, yes. And then before the night was out, Robin and them had a proposal for me if I wanted to come and work and learn more and that kind of thing. And I was so glad because that was like the first real light. You see the light and you tell yourself, well, okay, yeah, something could happen here. And I tried for best to make sure that I don't blow this because I never wanted that one to be a disappointment. And I made sure, I remember I tell Robin and them, I say, yo, I will work hard. I will do whatever. I listened to Robin and them. I followed what they said. I learned so much. And being there in that environment in Engine Room was the perfect place to be because anybody used to be in that studio. I mean, we used to do all the ads basically in Trinidad for Mac and Harrison, Corbin, Lonsdale, Ample, you name it. All the studio, all the advertising agencies used to come to Engine Room to do the ads. So basically I started by doing that. And then when they started doing ads, all the artists used to be around because right next door to us was Charlie's Roots band room. Charlie's Roots was like the number one band in Trinidad. So I started to be exposed to real musicians, the real core. I mean, David Rudder in the place. When I saw David Rudder for the first time, I was like, wait, now hold on, this is David Rudder. This is actually David Rudder, you know what I mean? And David was, always very quiet and, you want to talk to David, but you don't know if you can talk to David kind of way, So you learn humility, you learn so much things. And then after being around these guys for a while, everybody started to warm up to you and meet people like Sprangalang. I mean, Sprangalang, people just watch at Dennis Hall as a comedian, but wow, what an educated piece of machinery that guy is. You know what I mean? A podcast like this, we probably need to get Dennis Hall to come and have a podcast for people to really, and he used to be there and, you could bounce anything off of Dennis. You could ask Dennis anything. And I used to take these opportunities when I meet these people to just ask questions, get information, meet musicians, meet Andre Tanker, when me and David Rudder strike up a nice relationship, I would meet everybody. I met Rash Shorty. I had a nice relationship with him. And one of my favorite in meetings was when I met Kitchener for the once in my life. One meeting. But it was so profound, you know what I mean? It was like, he came down to the studio and so when I saw him, because, he always dapper in his little suit and thing and the little hat on the head and come inside and I see him to Robin and I was like, boy, I really like to just talk to the boss of the guy. I mean, it's at the end of the day, come on, man. That's Kitchener, if I can sit down and talk to Kitchener for a little 15, 20 minutes, I good. So Robin was like, well, okay. So give me a little introduction. Daryl, he's working and things. So I was like, what you doing? So shake his hand and thing. He's like, what you just do? He's a musician? I was like, yeah. He said, okay. What instrument you play? I said, well, I play keyboards. He said, okay, practice every day. I said, okay. And with that, he left. That was the end of my conversation with Kitchener. I was like, it done? That's it. I mean, like, nothing more. Not a cookie, nothing. It's like, but I stood there and until yet still you tell yourself, wait a minute, I could literally say today I spoke to Kitchener. Right. You know what I mean? And when he walk off, I started thinking to myself, when he decided to do a session with Robin and I'm thinking to myself, but I just talked to Kitchener. But it was like 15 seconds. At that 15 seconds, he tell me something that was really important. Practice every day. So even though sometimes in life you might not think something is what you wanted it to be, like I more or less would have thought that conversation might be a little longer and I get to ask him about Gina and about Sugar Boom Boom, and that's what I wanted to do. Find out where he get it to way how you get these ideas and things. That's why I wanted to go with the conversation. No, sir. Practice every day. So, but I walk away with practice every day, and it became something that every morning when I would take my half an hour with the keyboard, and every time I go to play, I remember him. Even today, if I go to, like say I play keyboards for a while and today he's getting rusty, right, and you go and you sit down and start to play up a few little things, I will remember that. I remember him saying practice every day because that was such a profound, simple statement, and I learned that in life that, sometimes not what you think a situation is, it always look like it, but take from it what you get, walk away with it. the glass is always half full. You know, I am the eternal optimist. And from that meeting with him, would have had meetings with Rash Shorty I, and would have get to sit down and have the deep, long conversations with Shorty I, you know, and get to understand what he was thinking about through this whole formulation of the music, you know, and the combining of the African and the Indo fusion to come up with the calypso and the soca, I mean, and, you know, and those conversations were very, very knowledgeable and very helpful in making me understand my culture. Because if I didn't go and get that job at Engine Room, I would have not learned about the musical heritage and culture of Trinidad and Tobago. And because of the people that I was exposed to. So then I started to be able to take my music now and add to the music that I like, which was hip hop, reggae, dancehall. I could add the culture of Trinidad and Tobago into it because I realize what is the strum for calypso and how the progression goes, and I know I could take that and I could add it to a piece of dancehall music. If I go in and do something, I'll say, right, I'll use the drum pattern from this, but I'll use the chords from here and I'll play the bass like this. So then now you get the correct combination of things. So then that now put me in a place where I could have started to create my own sound. So I started to create my own song and sit down there night after night, because I would go to work sometime in the morning. I would go in the studio in the morning. I mean, even until whenever time. Because once the studio open, I create it and I'm trying to work. And did that up until the point where KMC and I sat back down. We met because we broke off for a while and came back around in 96, 97, and we did the Bashment Carnival. And that is when my life and his life changed. And the year after that, I went and do Gallon the year after that.
This is
Bungie Ian Alvarez Gallon. Right? I think there's only one person in the world named Gallon.
Well, I'm just making it clear for the people who don't know.
Yeah,
You know.
the first time, because it's a story, and it's a fun story, you know, like first time like a better but talented guy. They had rented some studio time at Engine Room. He was working with another producer, and I walking on the corridor and I hear this voice. I remember the song and all, but for copyright reasons I ain't gonna sing it. You know? I remember the song he was singing and all. I hear this voice coming out of the room and I'm like, what's this? Who voice is that? But this man is articulating on the mic and I say, wow, this shoot bad though, whoever he is. And because I know coming off of that night, like year before I now do KMC, so now my stock's starting to go up because people coming to me from all over now, oh, I want to do a record. So I know starting to see money and I say like, yeah. So I started to look for artists now. And I hear this man, I was like, so when they finished with their session, I walk in the room to see who is this artist. So I hear this voice, so I expecting to see this person. When I walk in the room, the guy just stand up in the room, they're normal, quiet. So the producer who was working with him, I asked him, I said, well, who's this you? He said, Bungie Gallon. I was like, who? Like that's a weird name. It would have went to the whole mission of, I tell him like I wanted to work with him, but then he kind of like more or less hide Gallon from me for about a year. we laugh about this to this day. Yeah. Because I used to be like, Dad, where the man? I tried to find the man. He said, but I get the man your number. Which when we did eventually hook up, we realized that was not what was going on. But everything happens within its timing and everything happened when it was supposed to happen. And it worked out well. And we are where we are today. That combination came about because, he still wanted to do hardcore dancehall because that's all he knew. And all young people, that's all they knew because that you go to school in a maxi taxi. That's all we used to hear because our music never was representative of the youth. It was always the older heads in them and they never used to look like the youth in that time. So like, we talking middle to late 90s. The youth was looking, they were searching. The only young person you would have seen would have been Marshall. And then Marshall was struggling with his Panasonic Express, turning into Ecstatic. And he was still trying to become somebody now because moving from child star to big person star has been a hard period. And I remember seeing Marshall going through that period. I doubt it could have been easy. But I show the struggles that he went through in that period and having to be a perfectionist is what have him who he is today. Because I remember Marshall used to be putting out records that nobody care about. You know what I mean? And look at him today. He's like a totally different person. But he's a perfectionist. So he work. And it is what it is. But back then, it didn't have young people for a young artist to look up at. So Ken was there. Then it had like Maximus came about. Then Gallon come. So now we started had like this youth bubble. And the youth get a sound now. This raga soca sound. So this raga soca thing came into Trinidad hardcore in the late 90s. And it's still here today. in its different incarnations, but it's still here today. It's standing the test of time. I think what I appreciated from the knowledge that I gained and that I gained from the older heads that was able to help me in my earlier career to create the song that I was creating is what I would really like to impart now to younger producers and stuff. Because our music going through another lost period again. We there, we be there, and the mix and the blends are coming. And I like the mix and the blends that are coming, but what is missing is the soul, the soul. Our music have a song. It have a something in it. And it's beginning to, we losing that. And we starting to get all the other trimmings of everything else.
Right.
And it's have a little inflection of us. But we need to have a little more of us so that it will always sustain the test of time and be able to stand the test of time. Because a lot of the stuff that these fellas and them doing now, because it's missing that core and because it's missing these fellas having the conversations like how I was able to have the conversation with the older heads. Because now that dissemination of information is no longer easily attainable like how it was back then. And even back, but I don't think it was easily attainable, but I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. But now, what lends to the whole creative process where producers are concerned now is once you have an iMac and you could buy Logic and you could buy 2 speakers and an interface home and you buy some Sonics and put on the wall, you become a producer. Voila. But that is not really what it is. So the whole thing is fellas have to get to understand the meaning of what our music is, the culture, the struggle, the tambu bambu, why calypso came about, why the slaves started to sing it, why is call and response, why this be like, I tell me that it's minute to call and response, what that was about. We need to understand all these little things so we can keep putting it in our music for real now, right? Because like I tell fellas, reggae, stay reggae from ever since Chris Blackwell went and take Bob Marley and them singing ska and rocksteady and all them thing, and he take that music and carry it over to England, slow it down, blues it up, and put that strum, right? Since that happened to this day, reggae is still reggae. Reggae haven't changed. So we know our music does change so much like with the breeze. So you find out that soca yesterday ain't gonna sound like soca, but because we do have that central thing that makes it what it is. And I think that is missing. And education and dissemination of information to the younger guys in the game is going to help that.
So just for my information and hopefully somebody else listening will kind of give me the essence of what that soul should be.
What it should be.
What it should be.
It's a good question. If I had to go back to what Shorty would have said to me is our unique cosmopolitan situation that we have here and that blending of the African and the Indo culture. It's a weird thing that happened along the way, you know, because you find what Shorty created and called soca, this is going to sound really strange, but it's what we call chutney soca. What we call soca is more the jab part of our culture, the Blue Devil, the Jabolasi part of our culture, because the snare patterns, the everything about it is, if you remember a long time, Jambalasi, look them there. That is that same jab culture. Is the Blue Devil in the on Juve morning, is the horns on the head, and that's that. The fusion of the Indo and the African drum, that got left with chutney soca. And now we label that as chutney soca. If a chutney record come out 2D, and if it's a big record like Cha-na-na-na-na-na, one of them records, right? That record would supersede Carnival. It would play in the Carnival, it will play out of the Carnival, and will continue playing. Because it doesn't just represent for the Carnival. It represents for our culture. When a big chutney record crossover, it is actually be the embodiment of what Rashoti I was talking about. And we didn't even realize this is be happening. But because of that conversation that I have, I understand what is happening when a big chutney record cross. Because when a chutney record big and it cross, you just see it today. It just actually live. Everybody's be singing it. It's be like normal. Everybody say because that there is the fusion of the music that Rash was talking about when we spoke about, right? And then we have the different connotations now and the different colors of it now. All is part of our culture, but just different sides of the culture we just do different things with it, right? The soca as we have it today, as I say, the up-tempo ones, more or less, it is kind of like lean more to the jab side, the jambalasi side of it, right? The slower, groovier ones now, that would have been a representation of what we would have as long time as the social commentary. But now we're not singing only about, well, the government bad and no. But that is it's groovy soca. We're singing normal topics, right? Like what voice would do and that kind of thing. So you find out that we still have the two representative, that two level of the music being represented. And then we have this third arm that we call chutney soca now, which actually, as I said before, to me is a true representation of what soca is supposed to be. It's a very controversial statement, but if people understand the music, they would understand what I'm talking about. You see, it does exactly what he wanted it to do, unify the both sides of the two major races in the country. Because anytime the two major races of this country come together, that force is be unstoppable. You just literally feel it. Anytime there's something big and it's everybody in Trinidad is part of it, you just feel it, right? And that's what's happened now. I say when you get a big chutney record, you just literally feel it because it's the embodiment of those two strong cultures coming together. And we need to understand that music could do that. And politics and other things could rip that apart and turn it into something nasty where for the benefits of a few, they would mash up a lot. Just for a few to benefit. And we need to, if we look at it just through the eyes of music, we will realize that, hey, let us just live this thing together. Look at how good this thing is be when we put it in the music, right? And let we do look at it as, that is them, man. This is we. And the majority of the time, but I'm afraid to say this, the politicians will be doing that. And the politicians then found a way to do it. And it works for them. And we, the masses on the ground, you realize that we getting played. Come on, man, only wake up now, man. Let's wake up after. Let's just wake up there. We just wake up after this stupidity. You just start to talk politics. What is this?
You mentioned the groovy and the jambalasi and I guess if I could tie that back to like what we would have called power soca, there was a switch from a couple years ago
when you hardly just hear it.
Yeah, hardly hear.
Like where that went. Okay, well, from once again monitoring the situation, you find that the festival needs a fuel. The festival being the carnival. All right. If you go back a couple of years and you remember when we used to have these downtown powerful fetes, Fire, the only one that still exists is Army. But we had Fire, we had Flour Mills, we had Licensing Fete, we had Boxing Night down in Sando. We had like a few Wassa. We had these big downtown fetes. Brass Festival. We had these huge downtown fetes. Now, through these downtown fetes, that used to dictate the pace of the carnival, and you could literally go to a brass festival and figure out what would be road march because you could see the power of the music in that place, right? Because that up-tempo power is what people are going to use to go on the road, and they're going to use that, and most of the time that coming off of the party because everybody going to different parties every weekend and the songs building in the parties and the energy of the carnival just building. Them days people are trying to go parties with no girls are going party, no heel. Girls are never to buy the sneakers, the Adidas, and the this and the that, and the height and the foot, and put on the short pants and pop the hair because they know what we go into a party. Nowadays, we don't go to party no more. We don't go to fete no more. I think we go to social gatherings now, right? And because the music and the setup of the music change, now we no longer have the downtown fetes to fuel the festival. So that power soca is no longer existent because it's not necessary anymore because the fetes in them are designed for social gatherings. It's uptown parties now as opposed to downtown parties. So now downtown people trying to go to an uptown fete to feel like I am somebody. You know, look at me, look at where I am. You wasn't there last night. Oh, look at my pics on Instagram. Just to say that I was there. No, when they get there, the music is not the major component. The music now just become like window dressing. It's there. It's playing in the background, but it's not taking front stage. So now the producers and them started a couple of years ago producing the music to cater for that. Because they no longer have to cater for the downtown fetes no more. Because the downtown fetes dead. So the fuel of that festival died at that point in time. So that power soca thing come and die there. Now, the bards and the artists and them who used to do the power soca, you like the Ronnie McIntoshes and the this one and that, who had an understanding of how to do it. That generation more or less started to phase out, and then men went into bigger businesses and doing other things now. So now even the artists who understood the composition and how to put together power, they're no longer doing it. So we left with this vacuum now where we have to create these, I like to call it wallpaper music, just because it's just background music there to accompany us while we have a glass of wine and talk about if this cheese sour, if this is the way pepper jack is actually tastes. So we're losing that partying aspect. We're losing that partying aspect. And then the music now is just catering for it now. So that's why we stopped making the power soca. 1 and 2, the producers and then the younger producers, them don't know how to make it because they didn't grow up in it. So I can't fault them for that. They didn't grow up in it. And then the narrative started where, boy, power dead. We don't need no power no more. And that narrative started to catch on and trade that a way where we just start to say things and it is catch on. It don't have nothing to it.
No substance.
No substance behind the argument. Because I see him on the radio talking, boy, that power soca thing dead, boy, power thing dead. And you hear men saying these things. And I'm saying to myself, you are speaking from an ignorant point, from an ignorant angle. I'm not saying ignorant in the term that we use it, like talk ignorant and stupid. Ignorant from the point where you're lacking the knowledge. Right? So if we don't have that festival type music inside of the festival, just how we see the power soca disappear is so we're going to see the festival starting to disappear. The feel of carnival is going to start to change. Because we will start to look for the power soca from up the islands now. Because the guys in the islands doing that power soca now. So we're looking for power soca to come out of Grenada, Antigua, St. Lucia, Vinci. That is where we getting power soca from. And all we doing is singing 108 BPMs, 110, 115, 120 BPM. We singing groove. And then the promoters and them outside of Trinidad now, when they're trying to book a real soca fete, they can't book our artists because we can't really put you in this because your music is just groove. So you find out that they're booking a lot of the island artists. So now, once again, we're going through a situation where now we throw the baby with the bathwater. And we going to suffer for it in the long run if we don't put a stop to it and really go back to fueling our festival with the music that it needs before the festival actually dies for it. And the festival has become so commercialized now where it's really not even so much about the festival, it's about big business. So if you look at it through those eyes, you could then see where it's dying. It's about a guy sitting down thinking, all right, all money I'll make next year, but you know, we walk away with all 30 million after the carnival done, right? And it's about it. That's what me just thinking about now. It's about, so we need to make sure that that music stays true. So to any young producer listening, any artist listening, start back. Go back, dig up the archives, see how that thing used to be. Go watch it, see it, feel it, and still recognize now that when Iowa drop one, it's still bad already. When Boy drop one, it's still bad because them know how to do it. So all of men is be talking about, oh, the soca dead. When soca kingdom, when it start, everybody like, where we were? Because he know to do it. It dead. It's just that all not doing it no more. You understand? When I was jump out of it, we did this Havana, we done what in Havana. Everybody like, wait, jump out there, that's it. We need it. Because that's part of our culture. Let us don't throw it away. Let us stop talking rubbish about we don't need power soca no more. It's part of our culture, right? And we need the groove. So we can't throw away the other for the other. Let the both of them coexist for the betterment of our music and our festival and everything. And if you want to market the stuff to different markets and you're probably thinking that, you know, the 150 BPMs, people mightn't get it. I get that. But that's why we have you're doing the lower BPM ones. So that if you want to market your thing to a market that you think might not understand the root of that high-powered energy thing until they come here and see the carnival. Because when they come in it and they see the carnival, then they would understand, oh, that's why the music does be like this, right? So no, we can't throw it away, and we need to really understand it a little more. So the younger guys are coming up in the game, you know, go do a little more research, find somebody who are a little older than you in the business and see it out before, ask a question, you know what I mean? And, you know, see how best we could keep the culture alive, keep this thing alive, keep putting money in everybody's pocket, you know what I mean? Because you can live comfortable off of it once we have a proper business model running with it.
Listening to what you're saying, it seems that music as a whole, as the art form, has the power to move people in a particular way. What's your take on just music and the power of music itself?
Ah, boy, it's a serious question you're asking. I mean, that is a level. That is when people have to start to take off the normal shades, the normal blinders that the world give us, and start to see the world through different eyes and understand what the world is, to really understand what music is. Because we've been listening to music since we were born, and it's just 8 notes. It's an octave. It's one scale. Since you were born, you've been listening to music. It's that same 8 notes. Your grandfather before you was listening to music, the same 8 notes. His grandfather before him was listening to them same 8 notes. People in Kazakhstan, in India, here, all over the world, they play these same 8 notes. And look at the amount of music in this world. That is not no mistake thing. That is nothing to take for granted and think that is something light and flippant. Music is more than life. I think music is life. Because everything around us is music. You listen to the breeze blow. It blows with a key. It has a feel to it. The trees lean. Everything have a pattern and a melody and everything that goes along with it. Look at the ocean. Look at the water, the waves breaking on the shores. It breaks in a pattern. Everything has pattern, melody, vibe in it. Music, to me, is that. Music is so much more than just the song that comes through the speaker. To get that song that comes through the speaker is so many different vibes and so many different frequencies. And then if you understand this world that we live in, it's frequencies. We oscillate at certain frequency. I oscillate at a certain frequency. We all oscillate at different frequencies. That's why you may like somebody and you will meet somebody and in 1 minute say, I like this person. That's when you and this person oscillating at the same frequency, and it's like, oh gosh, you all connect. No, music on the other hand, music have so many different frequencies in it, so that it could touch so many different people at so many different times. And if you decide that, okay, you understand how to put together music and you understand how the different chords and different notes within that same octave does, that's how you understand how you could bring out different feelings in people just by playing chords. That's when the whole concept and the idea of music now starts to transcend just what you hear coming out of the speaker. Because something I like to do, I like to go into the studio either late in the night or early in the morning where it's quiet, nothing, nobody. And the first thing that I hear come to my head, I play, and you record it. And then you play something on top of that, and you play something on top of that, and you just make this piece of music. And let's say after 45 minutes to an hour, you sit down there with a piece of music that is going to outlive you, your grandchildren, children, because music is immortal. That's the only thing, that's one of the very few things that we could create that is immortal. Even if you make your kids, your kids have a mortality. They have a certain lifespan. And then that generation will go into another generation. But it still cuts off at one point in time. Music don't die. Their music that here for hundreds of thousands of years, pieces of music, and it will be here until then. And we need to understand how serious music is and respect it for what it is. Respect the different genres, respect all form of music, and don't use music as no little ploy and no little toy. Understand how serious this thing that we're playing with is.
I could feel the passion as you're speaking. I could feel it. So what would you say has been your greatest sacrifice that you have made to do this thing called music, to execute your creativity in this way?
What has been my greatest sacrifice? Nobody never asked me that question. That's a very good question, Nano. Let me think about that real quick. I sacrificed a lot of stuff to get to where I am today. Like what I'm living right now is my plan A.
Right.
I didn't have a plan B. No, I wanted to have a plan B. My plan B would have been to go and get my degree and do psychology. I literally scratched off that plan B. I never wanted a plan B. If my plan A didn't work out, I would have gone and find another plan A. If we had to look at it through that perspective, it would be that I didn't take the time to go and take the 5 years off and go and do the psychology degree. But I don't even know if that is so important, really and truly, to match up to the gratification of living the life that I live right now. If we have to put it in those regards, yeah, I wanted to do psychology and I wanted to have a degree. By now I might have a master's. I know that I have practice. I'd have like about 2 or 3 that would have been probably my only other thing. I reached that point though where I could really say, never go and get a next plan, eh? Because the plan A don't work already. So now I could go and find a next plan A. Because I hate plan Bs. You see, plan Bs just tell you that just in case this thing that you're doing ain't work. Nah, I never came into this with no just in case it's not gonna work. This gonna work. If this don't work, is vagrant out it. I live on the side of the road in a cardboard box, and that is not going to happen. Yeah, so that is not going to happen. So I knew it was going to work. It was hard. I'm not selling no loot to nobody out there, make anybody feel that this was an easy journey. This had real ups and downs, real disappointment. I think music just has so much disappointment. And sometimes if you're not strong, you will throw in that towel and just decide, boy, I good there. You know?
How did you overcome those points to keep you going and saying, yeah?
Total and entire belief in that it have a force so much bigger than me that does guide my life. I am not a religious person. I don't believe in religion per se. I am spiritual, very spiritual. And I knew that this bigger being that me and him have, have this relationship that even though you reach them lows, those lows were the points that it bring you to get you stronger. So because of my innate belief in this force that is bigger than me, even though things got rough, I had something there to lean on to say, well, boy, hey, you'll make it in our racks. When I saw the failures and I saw the knocks, the hard knocks, and sometimes you really just want to say, no, I'm good. But you really just look back to that place and that person and that guiding spiritual force in your life, and that person and that force is take you with him and carry you to places and use wonder to yourself. Because Danu, for me to live my dream, this cannot just be a mistake. It had to be me putting all these positive energies into the universe from since I'm all the Jamaicans and say from my idea, from since I small, me putting all these positive energies stating that this is what I want to be. This is what I want to become. And this is the universe reacting to all these positive energies that I put out, right? I always try to explain to people, I don't go deep in these things, like this is like a whole other podcast. But we don't understand that we are part of this world. We look at ourselves as just little mortals walking around. But that tree that is bare, green flower at a certain time of the year, nobody never tell him that. It didn't have you didn't see a class of trees and a teacher telling him that, the nature tells him that at this point of the year, this is going to happen. And he does it. It happens because that is his purpose. My purpose was always to put out positive energies and wait for the positive feedback. Stay away from negative low frequencies, because the mud that exists in those low frequencies sometimes is too hard for the positive to cut through. Be able to recognize and see negative frequencies. Be able to see it, because sometimes low frequencies is come in different forms. Be able to see it. Stay away from negative influences, right? And open yourself up to all the positive that it will have to offer. And at the same time, ask for the correct things. Know what you really want. Know, understand in your life what I really need to get from point A to point B. Not just flippantly, I think I need to buy a red bottoms. No, it's rubbish. Know what you really need, right? Know that, okay, if I help Dano today, right? And through that positive energy that I put out to help Dano, if Dano receives it as positive energy, and Dano decides to go and help out Jane would receive it as positive energy too. And she would go and help John. And then that circle of positivity would just spread outward until somebody come and break that chain with some negative crap. But if we all understand that thing there, put out positive and wait for it to come back, I think that is what I did, and that has always been my little guiding force through this whole little thing. Put all the positives and wait for them to come back.
Before we wrap up, I would ask, if you had a space that you could put out one message for people to take away, what would that message be?
That was literally just what we talked about. That honestly, it will just be really and truly find your calling in life, your true calling in life, not the ones that people or society put on you, not the ones that you probably think flashy and looks pretty. It might not be the best looking job. It might not be the best looking thing. It might not be the best looking part, but it's what you want. Find that. Make that your full center. Use it. Use all your energy in your body to achieve it. And sit down and wait for the rewards to come. Because it is going to come.
Please share this episode with someone who would find it valuable. If you haven't yet, subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts to get new episodes as they become available. Find additional content on abigboxofcrayons.com. Follow us on Instagram at abigboxofcrayons. We Are Crayons, the podcast, is a production of A Big Box of Crayons. All rights reserved. Until next time, remember, we are all the same in the fact that we'll never be the same. Stay colorful, and thank you for listening.